If they want to experiment on you, by the thousands they will, and you can be driven to insanity and death, and you just become a tick in a box.
So if you're a target, there's virtually nothing you can do.
Hyper game theory. How do you, they want to see if they can manipulate people to do things that are irrational, but also walk them to their death. And so you can call it a eugenics program even. And they need to sample all cultures, language throughout the world to define their probability matrices of which tricks, techniques, deception works.
Real-life experiment where I was the subject of a prototype device designed to project images into the mind without electrodes.
The government, the English government, has been lying to the people. And the American government, the Canadian, the Australian, they have been lying. They have been lying to protect industry, protect their profits, to protect themselves from lawsuits.
Well, now it's the Human Mind Project, the Global Brain Project. You know, President Obama just recently funded a whole bunch of scientists to decipher the mind. Well, our previous president, same thing, George Bush, said the same thing. They're trying to decipher every possible thought and uniqueness due to culture and language. So researchers at the University of California, Berkeley, have invented a brain decoder device that's able to work out what you're thinking based on neural activity inside of the brain. Now, they use mostly what's called functional MRIs. But you could use any of these technologies I talked about.
If they want to experiment on you, by the thousands, they
will. Energy weapons on civilians such as myself causes a great deal of psychological issues. Remote neural monitoring technology, V2K, and EMP are being used to cause mass destruction across the globe. And because not enough people are aware of this and how exactly it works, I'll explain based on my experience. Targets are being violated in every sense of the word by the ones who have their brain linked to a brain-computer interface. Once linked, the monitors can see everything the target sees, read every thought the target has, emotion, so on and so forth. They will degrade, harass, kill targets through the use of this V2K EMP mind control technology. They will lie to you, deceive you, and try to confuse you as much as possible every single day. They are there when you shower and go to the bathroom. They are there for your most intimate moments. You have absolutely no privacy. They will communicate with you via synthetic telepathy at all times. And every comment they make will be perverse and only to degrade you. There is no known way to disconnect oneself from this technology or even detect it. Therefore, targets have no other choice but to deal with a constant barrage of harassment, which will have a severely detrimental impact on the target's thought processes and psyche. The ones behind this operation will threaten the target's lives, their families' lives, and their friends' lives if they consider speaking out about what's happening to them. Because it's very hard to confide in someone that doesn't have an understanding of what it's like to be a targeted individual. Most remain silent. Medical professionals are unaware of how this works, lawyers, etc. Therefore, those dealing with this are being misdiagnosed with mental illnesses such as schizophrenia or psychosis. Unless you'd like this to happen to yourself, your child, or a loved one, I would strongly suggest understanding the reality of this illegal operation and make as many people as possible aware of it.
I want you to, the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because of targeted individuals. I think for people who've never heard that term before, and for all the false flags and the mass shootings that we've seen, when they talk about targeted individuals, we could talk about the Havana syndrome, right? Because that was recently discussed in May. What would you define as a targeted individual, and how do they target that individual?
Well, targeted individual is a really broad term, right? And some people think it's only if you're targeted with directed energy weapons, and other people think it's anybody that actually mess with them in some way. And I could say it's almost everybody's targeted in some fashion. And when you talk to the targeted individual people who are experts on that, they'll tell you that 6 million people are actively in a targeted individual program, where there's a group of people within dark projects who are targeting, tracking them, and using them as an experiment. And the half maybe don't even realize they're being targeted. Okay, and that could be anywhere from voice to skull messages that they send to your brain. You could have a chip so that they can monitor the reaction of your body when they send the messages to you, or when they inflict something weird on you. They could be planting memories. They could be reading your thoughts. It gets really out there, but this is the technology that exists today. A big portion of these targeted individuals are part of this program to figure out how to get past our natural defenses.
Right. To figure out based on the feedback, what other doors or back doors can they go into to try to get the result that they want.
The thing is, I think they're working to try to a certain group to try to make them insane.
Ms. Cliffy Jr. exposing the United States government for treason and genocide, essentially calling the population through their so-called systems, through medical systems and prison systems, FBI, local police, and criminal networks, a bunch of fucking faggots go by the name of Illuminati, involved in torture, brainwashing, controlling, enslaving, and manipulating all our families under the guise of national security. These agencies fraudulently place innocent people on terrorist watch lists that expose systematic corruption that don't conform with involuntary servitude. That's modern day slavery, mental slavery, okay, under the guise of national security, torturing and radiating law-abiding civilians. These are legal programs fraudulently being ran under the guise of national security, whereas though the state employ a bunch of criminals through the prison industrial complex to conduct illegal surveillance, torture, and government-sponsored organized crime, okay? Corrupt-ass police involved in secret societies and cults established through these control systems. This involved the uses of non-consensual neurological and biological weapons, which is actually treason, okay? This is a violation of the Nuremberg Code and the Geneva Convention. These weapons are used to attack civilians' mind, okay, being voices and frequencies in their heads. You have corrupt-ass police, okay, along with criminal networks involved in human trafficking, brainwashing, controlling, enslaving, and manipulating our families. All fucking government lies, okay? Death threats through this technology, okay? And non-stop, brutal, inhumane torture by a bunch of sick bastards that are attempting to enslave, control, or kill you by satellite under the guise of national security that use anonymity to torture and murder civilians under these systems, okay? All these so-called handlers are a bunch of coward faggots. I know for a fact, okay? Because the first time I was arrested at Baltimore City Detention Center, these so-called handlers all work with corrupt-ass police to carry out illegal surveillance, torture, government-sponsored organized crime on anybody that don't conform or consent to being a homosexual, modern-day slavery, or being brainwashed. They torture and murder free thinkers, okay? America's not a free nation, okay? This is a communistic takeover, okay, or Stasi from the inside without the consent of the individual, and the government essentially using the family to cover up the crimes of the state. These are systems of control, corruption, and indoctrination, okay? They try to make it seem like you want to harm your family or something like that, when realistically, there's a bunch of criminals trying to kill you and actually torturing you by satellite under the guise of NSA, trying to purge you from society in order to cover up a silent, massive Holocaust by these governmental organizations and agencies themselves, okay, and these criminal networks. So, psychiatry fraud is used to cover up premeditated murder along with the usage of this technology, okay? There are patents for it. Too many people exposing it and complaining about it. Microwave hearing is not new technology. This has been out since at least the 70s, okay? 1970s, okay? So we're exposing essentially modern-day slavery, torture, and a Holocaust in America, okay? I have mucus and stuff coming out my nose. This is not from the weather. This is due to excessive torture and being radiated, okay, through my ankles under the guise of national security. When I was first arrested at Baltimore City Detention Center, they placed a non-consensual neural weapon in my right ankle in a clear substance, which I believe to be graphene oxide or some form of nanotechnology, okay? I didn't consent to this. When I went down to the Federal Bureau of Investigation headquarters in Baltimore, Maryland, this is when I believe I was fraudulently placed on the terrorist watch list. Family involvement in these cults and secret societies, and the family is pretty much trying to essentially cover up the crimes of the state, along with the criminal networks that are using V2K. I believe they manipulate the family. These cowards in these cults and secret societies threaten the family, okay? And they work directly with corrupt-ass police in order to cover up the crimes of the state. He's going to get me killed. They're going to beat the shit out of me and torture me by satellite. All these pieces of shit are nothing but a bunch of homosexual punks that work alongside with corrupt-ass police through the prison industrial complex. This is your modern-day slavery, Illuminati control system. The medical system, fraud. Prison system, fraud. These cults, along with secret societies, the FBI, and the corrupt police, okay, frame people, torture people, then use voice of skull, or what's better known as the voice of God technology, to torture people, destroy that cellular markup and structure internally, then try to get the people to resort to violence. And this is an attempt to call innocent people from society in order to cover up the crimes of the state and to cover up modern-day slavery.